feature.
Tickle.
Cloud, bring me the black materia.
The beginning of the end. The celebration of the faithful. A watershed moment for all mankind.
Hey kids, sorry we're late.
Fill your hollow heart with rage.
Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net's The Prototype, and this is some special content we wanted to end our summer hiatus on because finally I've had a chance to beat this game, and I know Alex and Ken have been wanting to talk about this for a while, but I am one of your hosts today. I am Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as I have other members of the party. I'm trying to figure who would Alex be if he was a Final Fantasy VII character.
Oh,
Who would you be, Alex?
It's probably something at Shinra, unfortunately.
The Shinra middle manager, who's the real end boss of the entire game.
I'd probably be Palmer, but just a little less cowardly.
And of course, from the Garden State of New Jersey, we have the host of this anime.
It's Ken.
And who would you be, Ken, if you had to pick?
Hmm.
Who suits your personality?
Maybe one of the
Maybe
guys
Red.
in the Red. Okay, I was gonna say maybe one of the guys in the library when you meet the mayor. but that's the last game. Yeah, like it's weird, Mike. I think we sort of know who you'd be.
Who? Red or Kate Sith?
No, Don Corneo.
Honestly,
Yeah,
I love
you'd
that
be
over
Don.
the topness of him.
You're pretty much Don Corneo. I mean, it's just take away some bad aspects, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Take away the
Particularly the
slavery
sexual
bit.
assault, and I'm like, hey, please. Okay, so guys, if you haven't guessed it by now, we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. There will be spoilers in this discussion after about 5-10 minutes or so. We'll tell you when we're going to hit spoiler territory in case you haven't beaten this game yet, but you really should. And this was my summer game. That Alex kind of gave me as homework. So like, Mike, can you please beat this before we come back from summer hiatus? And then life happened. If you follow my social media, I'm so done talking about that, but life happened. And I'm like, you know what? Now that I'm off the internet, more or less, I'm going to sit down with my PlayStation 5 when I'm not outside playing Pokemon. And I'm going to dive into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because I bought it the same time as Alex. But I didn't get too far. I got as far as June and then I just kind of left it alone until July.
You
And
kept
I was
asking me
surprised how much this game
initially because you were initially like, the game is good. We'll get that out of the way. Game is really good. You know, it's going to be Game of the Year contender and all this. But you made a cardinal horrible mistake, and that was you tried to play the game when you were too busy doing other things. So all you kept asking when you first initially were playing is, how far am I? Am I done yet? Am I near the end yet? And it's like, why are you asking those questions? Because the answer is no. When you were like 20 hours in, I'm like, you've got 5 times that to go. But
which is weird because the game is so weirdly spaced out, but not in a bad way.
No, it's the way it's built like a traditional 100-hour RPG. But beyond that, you know, I was like, no, stop playing and come back when you have time so that you're not rushing yourself. Because this is not a game that you rush your way. Well, I mean, I rushed my way through it, but like I was so immersed.
You're a machine.
But I had specifically, time set aside to do that, right? If you're somebody who has a lot of things on the go, it's not something you're going to want to do, unless you like only having to play like an hour a day and it'll take you half a year to beat.
Like this was a game like I had a lot of fun with it once I got into it, and I was a little lost at first because there was months gap between what was happening, but once I caught back up to where I was, I really immersed myself, and
Yeah.
that's all I played at night. I would play like 3 to 6 hours a night when I was not doing other stuff. And I honestly had such a good time. Yes, I played on easy. I don't care. I don't got time for that. But I had such a fantastic time outside of about two things, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But
We-
overall, I had a fantastic time with this game. Like,
Uh,
is it my game of the year? I will say it's very high up there until Marvel vs. Capcom Collection comes out.
which
But
In,
as a
like
at the same
2
time,
weeks.
at the same time, my argument to that is this is a remake, but a reimagining.
yeah,
I don't think you can count a port of an arcade game as your game of the year.
No.
It can be a different category. It
Yeah.
can be your favorite game of the year, but it won't be the best game of the year.
oh yeah, 100% for sure. Completely
Um,
agree on that.
Now, I guess we just sort of free flow when we go on these long form discussions of this, but we decided because this game is pretty massive,
Huge. Yeah.
and there's so many things we could go on about that I've wanted to talk to you about, that I've held my tongue for a while, and I know Ken doesn't have the actual PlayStation to play this. He's got his fingers crossed for the year 2038 or whatever, when they're going to get a PC version.
They'll launch the PC version
Yeah.
next year. But like
That's
again,
true.
I've seen enough playthroughs. I actually recently, one of the long running people that was still having it on the back burner finally beat it, and that's all. So I watched him actually go through the final boss live.
Yeah, so
and
so
everything.
we'll yeah, and it really is. It's one of those things where even watching it, when you do go to play it, it will feel different to you. It's one of those kind of games.
Oh yeah.
So I figured we'd start out. We have sort of some bullet points. Like, is there anything anybody wants to say? Like, do you have a personal history with the franchise previously?
I do. For this, Final Fantasy VII came to me at a very strange point in my life. So I was in high school, so in the 90s, when I first started playing Final Fantasy VII, and I got my hands on a modded PlayStation. And I remember playing through Final Fantasy VII on this modded PlayStation over the course of a summer. And I remember for the first disc, I didn't have a memory card. So let that fucking sink in for a moment.
joy.
Oh yeah. So eventually I did get it, but I remember playing it over the course of a summer from, I think it was my friend Ryan, and I really, really enjoyed it. And even back then, certain characters and storylines really kind of stuck with me. I seem to recall my friends Brad, Ben, Gavin, and a few other people. I think we tried to make our own pen and paper version of this game at our lunch table in high school. That's how big dorks we were for this. And I remember really digging certain sections of this game, and it's no surprise. I mean, as much as I didn't identify with my indigenous heritage when I was younger, the Red 13 stuff in Cosmo Canyon really stuck with me back then, and especially now that scene in Cosmo Canyon with Nanaki's father still hits hard 20 something years later. And I was really, really, really impressed. And then my other part of this franchise history is one of my friends is Raheem Jarbo, otherwise known as Mega Ran, the nerdcore rapper who does stuff for WWE. He did a series of albums based upon Final Fantasy VII and then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And he did a collaboration with someone a number of years ago with a guy from Australia called The Ranger. And he did a song called Cosmo Canyon. And then he did a remix of it years later. And he says, like, Mike, I did that for you. Because he knew I was indigenous. He knew how much I digged Red 13. And I've fallen more in love with this franchise as me and Alex have become better friends since we started doing the show together back in the mid 2010s. And just as we've gotten closer as family, you've really kind of shown me what the Final Fantasy franchise can be. And this is the franchise you really got me into, because you got me into Remake when the PlayStation 4 was at the end of its life cycle, PlayStation 5 was just coming into it, and you showed me some neat tricks and stuff like that to do with it that I could run through the game fairly fast. And then when Intergrade came out, I found Yuffie a really annoying character in the original games. Here, my attitude is completely changed. Completely. And
Yeah.
I fell in love with this franchise so much so I had my friend Jen, who's a big friend of the show. She's designed she's designed some of my other tattoos. She designed me a Red 13 tattoo that hopefully I'm going to get before the end of the year, because that's how much I identify with this game now. So yeah, I've had a long history with this game. I'm very happy. And just to plug Mega Ran, he does have a new album based upon Rebirth that's available right now for free. You should go check that out. So yeah, that is my personal history with Final Fantasy VII. Oh, and then finally, forgot to mention this. I'm getting a bracelet that is a summon materia in a leather bracer that looks like one in the game. I found it on Etsy for like $20.
Neat.
So that, I'm like, that's cool. Now I can summon fucking Gilgamesh and wreck people. So good times.
And then for you, Ken, I guess you're the younger one of the bunch here, so you would have been too young when the first one came out.
I was not a PlayStation kid.
Well,
I was not.
You would have been
I was
like
N64. Well, when 7 came out, which was 97.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like 5,
preschool.
6.
Conceived.
Yeah, but I've played through 7 a couple of times through emulation. I have a copy on Switch that I actually just went back and started playing through again. I got to the end of where Remake 1 ends earlier, and basically just started it up recently, going into what is Remake 2 as Rebirth. And yeah, it's I know the characters, I know the story, and 7's pretty up there. I'm more of a 6 guy over 7, but that's just a controversial opinion sometimes with people.
I can sort of understand why some people they're like, oh, it's not. It's if you were to take 7, the original version of 7, and shrink it down onto the graphics of a like Super Nintendo, 6 is the better game.
Yes.
That's the best way you can describe it to somebody. If you take the graphics out and you put it on the same platform, you can't, without visually knowing what 6 would have looked like on a PlayStation. But if you just drop it down, you're like, okay, the story is great, but basically Kefka's better. It comes down to having the best villain in all of Final Fantasy.
But you also have there's a lot to Sephiroth, and even in Rebirth we get some more Sephiroth. And you kind of I think Rebirth does a great job at fleshing out those moments that you get in the original 7.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I'd say for me, my background is I was 10 or 11 when this came out, or when I first encountered it. I was visiting a friend, and his older brother had picked it up, and it was the first people I knew that had a PlayStation. And I had played at that point, 4/2 and 3 on the Super Nintendo from them, borrowed it, and we thought it was cool. We were watching 7. I remember going for a sleepover, and we sat and watched his brother play for like 9 hours, watching the summons and watching everything. We were just like mouth agape. That was the state of the art for graphics and just world building and everything at the time. So it had a pretty big impression there. Played it multiple times throughout the years since then, so I pretty much know most of it. I didn't play before we go into like anything further in this game. I have not played Dirge of Cerberus because I've heard it's crap. I have not played.
It is free on PlayStation Plus right now, or at least it was. That's how I got it, but I haven't watched it yet.
You have not. No, Dirge of Cerberus is PS2.
Oh no, wait, that I've played it. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great.
I just know something was like Deep Ground or something is supposed to be terrible.
Yeah.
Like basically it has the worst script of all of the Final Fantasies from what I hear. And like had like early voice acting and stuff or something. Really bad.
The fact that they didn't do a redo of Dirge Cerberus says everything about
the
how
only
much
thing we
that
know
is going to matter leading into this last one.
It only seems to matter to any side stories that happen with Yuffie.
Yeah.
Even like it doesn't seem to even matter.
And they'll just solve that by adding it into the main game or a DLC or something.
Yeah, there'll be something with Vincent a little bit maybe to connect, but I don't think we're going to connect with Dirge. But I do think the elements of Dirge that have already been shown have been tacked onto Yuffie stuff instead of Vincent. Right. Because from what I can tell, the Dirge stuff was all like ending of the universe type stuff, and it's like it's not going to work that way. And like not ending of the universe stuff like that's been built up in the current franchise. It's like literally like gods of the universe. So it's like nah. But anyway, so I haven't played that. I didn't play, was it Before Crisis, because that was the mobile game that we never got. But I know that some elements from that have already started to show up. As of right now, I have been checking out Ever Crisis. That's the gacha that they put together, because there is a story in there that is Sephiroth when he's young. And yeah. So I'm trying it out. I'm not putting any money into it, because no way I'm doing that.
No.
But I wanted to see, and if not, I'll find out a compilation video or something of all the story. But it's about Sephiroth 15 years before the events of Final Fantasy, basically before he even has a chance to turn bad. It's like, what's it like with like the first group of Soldier before Soldier was even a main program in the army, before the War of Wutai even. So it's that sort of stuff. So that'll be interesting. But beyond that, this game, we'll say this before we move forward, is great for newcomers, but it's infinitely better if you've played the original, which is available on every platform.
Context just adds to it. It doesn't necessarily detract.
Yeah, like it will. The game is fantastic. If you're just experiencing it for the first time, you probably won't be more confused. In fact, you'll be less confused than those of us that have played the original. But
yeah,
but it adds to it anyway. So just to move along with the points, that's sort of the background. We've all had sort of slightly different backgrounds on it. Expectations, I'm only going to touch on that briefly here, in that I think I can speak for all of us that the expectations going in were, we weren't sure if it was going to be more open. We thought it was going to be maybe a little more open, have a little more to it. The expectation that I had was, one specific one was, I did not want to go back to a chapter-based system where to go to an area I'd have to reload a chapter. I wanted to be able to explore freely after the fact. You can go back and do certain events, and that's one of the things that they did here, which is good. They opened it up so that you can, once you've gone to an area, you can pretty much go back to anywhere you want to. And my expectation going in was like, just that they would have figured out the kinks with the engine and just made it bigger, and that's pretty much what they did, I think. We'll go into spoilers after, but before we go in, let's just touch upon a few basics that I think everybody that is listening probably has already seen or heard, and that's graphics and art is probably currently maybe the best from a Japanese studio. Like right now, as of this recording, like maybe state of the art, right? Like I can't think of a Japanese game that has better graphics right now.
The only game I could think of that looks close in like just how good it looks might be a game we played earlier this year. Something Blade. Help me out here.
Stellar Blade. That's Korean.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, that's the only game that looks
why.
good. But at the same time, yeah, like this game, it looks gorgeous. And the photo, I've got some problems with some of the photo mode just because the camera moves funny, but other
Yeah.
than that, yeah, this game looks astounding.
I would say the best way to describe this to anybody who really doesn't know, but is more accustomed to Western games, this is of not the same quality as like The Last of Us because they're not going for that. This is, as far as art design, gameplay, game scope, obviously this is a longer game, but this is like FF7 Rebirth is the God of War Ragnarok of Japan right now in terms of high marks. And then beyond that, scale and scope, the scope and scale is massive. You took what was essentially, if you just did the main missions in Final Fantasy Remake, it was what, 18 hours, 20 hours? If you just did, like, if you played it on easy and didn't do any side missions and didn't care about anything, I think it was like 22 hours. And you could get up to about 40 if you maxed everything out and did. And there's not like a lot of replayability in certain areas. It was like just doing like every Coliseum battle, that sort of stuff. And if you take the Yuffie side story, which is in itself, what, a 20-hour game, roughly, if you do everything? 10
something like that.
Yeah, I'd say about 10 hours-ish,
yeah.
give or take.
If you put it all together, it's about a 40-hour game if you get the complete version that's on PlayStation 5 where they put it all together. You get 3 times that. And maybe even more, actually. If you do absolutely everything, and I did almost everything in this game. I didn't do a couple post-game like complete missions where you have to like do casino type stuff, and I didn't do the absolute hardest of
combat challenges.
But if you did, you get anywhere from 120 to 150 hours.
Yeah.
But it's, I would say, if you're doing everything the way it's intended in this game, like with the way, like, because you can't really just do just the main story, because if you do, you miss so much.
Oh yeah,
you
miss items, you miss summons.
There's also, to a certain degree, there's a level of too much game in this game, and a lot of people have said, gotten to. Usually it's probably the forest, and once the forest hits, they go just mainline the main story to get it done.
And I had sort of a roundabout thing in that I thought my game was glitched when I was playing it initially, because I'm like, when I got to Cosmo Canyon, I couldn't figure out, because the tutorial didn't show me how to actually go in the canyon. So I just skipped it, and I ended up coming back to do Cosmo. So you can do things in a certain order if you want to a little bit, and I can agree there's certain things that you could strip out. But I would say if you beat the game in less than 100 hours, you've actually missed a sizable portion, not of the side lore, but of like actual character story.
Yeah.
So there's probably, if you just mainline it, it's probably what, 60, 70 hours. If you just completely mainline it. So you get plenty there. Audio and music, nothing we need to say. It's everything from the first game, but better and more.
Yeah. It's like, I found the music to be better in this game, honestly. Like, when you heard our intro there, that piece of music is the music that they play when you hike up Mount Corel. That is probably one of my favorite pieces of music in the entire fucking franchise. It was so catchy. Like, I sat there literally just looping battles just so I could keep listening to it. Well, it was so fucking good.
It's benefited from the fact that it's not just Midgar music.
Yeah.
Right.
And also thankfully Square Enix has put all their stuff on streaming services here in the West.
Streaming services, and not just locked behind like a 17 vinyl set or something. So I mean, which is cool, but like, and they did it pretty much right away this time. Now beyond that, I can say minigame wise, that's where
I loathed 95% of the minigames. Holy fuck, did I hate some of these.
The 2 parts of this game that don't feel like, that feel the most like they padded out the game, like because you were forced to do some, is The mini games could have been cut down to probably about half of them. There's a few
Mm-hmm.
that are a little more essential than others. I don't mind the idea of having to do one, but I didn't like the idea of having to do absolutely every single one to get not just trophies, but a few story beats that you just had to complete every single one for.
The
That
Cosmo
and
Canyon minigame was the worst because that's a really important piece of a story that you want to know how it resolves, and to lock it behind
yeah,
robots and gambits or whatever the fuck it is. I was like, fuck you. And I literally
that
went to YouTube. I'm like, how can I beat this in 2 minutes? I don't care. Fuck you. I want my
oh
emotional
the oh
heroine.
oh the robot one. I actually had a really good time.
Oh,
The tower defense. I had no problem with that. That was actually easy.
oh.
Okay, so
I had
how'd you
I had
guys
fun
deal
with that.
with the forest one?
Uh,
Because I know a lot of people loathe that one with a burning passion.
okay, well,
Oh, you mean the weird kind of mushroom one?
Yes, the mushroom game.
That one, I got that one pretty easy.
Okay.
But that one, yeah, I'll admit that's
you
a pain in
you
the
either
ass,
get
too.
it like you get it the first couple times, or you're there for like 3 hours.
now
Yeah.
I would say well, the section of the game that bogs it down overall, because of the only part of this game that I think has poor level design and map design is Gongaga. Is the actual forest area. It's a little too vertical, a little too things. It's just kind of, I'm
It's
not a big
confusing.
I'm not a fan of that. But mini game wise, there's one I really really didn't like, and that was, but it's actually essential, and that's the Chocobo one. Any of the Chocobo ones.
Yeah, the one that I hated the most was the Cosmo Canyon one because it takes a long time to figure out the flight systems for the flying chocobo. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty good. But if you want to get the max rank in all of those sections, which I did, but I was about ready to pull my fucking hair out, it was frustrating. Like I had to watch YouTube
Oh
videos to figure out how to not cheat, but there's a strategy for the last one where you have to loop back and catch the gust on a further
yeah,
one so you get the right level and height. I'm like, man, fuck this.
there's
Like,
that
fuck
for
this.
me. I really despise the 2 or 3 times whenever you get a new chocobo, or to get a new chocobo, you have to, and it's pretty much required for almost every zone. Um,
Hmm.
I think I think maybe Nibelheim you don't have to get it. I can't remember. I think you
You
don't.
do because you need the
You do.
chocobo grass,
You Yes, I was going to say you do, because you have to do a quest
the
line to
proto
go in,
relics. Yeah.
and you do, and you'd have to do that to get into the chocobo race at the end. So you do have
Hmm.
to get them. But the part that I hated the most were any of the ones, like a couple of the ones, the capturing of the one where it's like, make him go through the maze before it like spikes him and hurts him. That was
That's
okay.
annoying. It
That
was
was
annoying,
okay.
but
It
yeah.
was annoying, but the ones I hate are the solve the puzzle, move along, and don't get caught.
Yeah. Those auto
Fuck
fail ones are a pain in the
that,
ass.
because it stops you in your tracks for like an hour. It didn't
Hmm.
need to. So there's a couple of those that I feel that when they do a like remaster, not a remaster, not a remaster of the remake, but
when they take them and put them all into one package.
yeah, I don't see it being on PC, but when they put it on other platforms or put it on one package, there should be an update where for the Chocobo ones, and I don't even care if it doesn't give you the trophy. Actually, it should, because it doesn't matter, but there should be an option that if you fail, let's say 2 or 3 times, that it's like, would you like to skip this? Because
Yes.
because this mini
With
game
a
is
lot of them.
yeah, it's unnecessary. It really
Hmm.
truly is like, there's no point. And the other one that I didn't like, that is a truly unnecessary one, is there should have been nothing to do with the mog catching.
Those, see, they were fun for about the first three. The last two Mog houses, I was ready to whip my
And
controller
the
because they felt
reward
cheap.
the reward for beating him isn't anything good.
No.
So
I mean, it's kind of funny to see Cloud go, Koopa. I mean, that's funny for a chuckle, but it's like the lore you get out of it's middling at best, and the rewards aren't great. I mean, the only
No.
reason to do the Mog houses is to get the extra skill system, and
The
that's
only
about it.
Yeah, the only thing that would have made it more fun is if they had done something similar to what they did with Gilgamesh, where it's revealed Gilgamesh is from Final Fantasy V. If it had been revealed that Mog is all like one of the Moogles is a dimensional traveler, and it's
Multiversal beasting.
yeah, and it's Mog from FF6.
See,
That's
that
somehow
would have
in a
been
different
fucking
world.
cool.
You know,
Yeah.
if he's like oh I've got to go help my friends. We've got it turns out that the Mogs or the Moogles are all they're all the ones from the Narsh cave or something. They could have just been like, hey, we got transported here too because of whatever Sephiroth is doing. Like, we've got our friends to help too. There's a tower to climb or something, and then they could have just been like, oh my god, it's Kefka's tower. They could have done something like that because the whole idea is the fabric of the universe is being stripped apart and everything, right? If Gilgamesh and it's spoiler, just a little spoiler, that Gilgamesh is the Final Fantasy V Gilgamesh, like
Which is cool.
Who's also appeared in Final Fantasy VIII. If you get Odin before, I think it's disc 3, or you get him in disc 2 because you can get him in disc 2 or 3. If you get him early, when you go up against Cypher in one of the boss battles, it triggers Odin, which is funny because usually he only comes out on regular enemies because it's insta kill, and Cypher kills your Guardian Force. He kills, and then the sword goes flying, and then through the dimensional rift, Gilgamesh catches it, and he's like, basically, where the fuck am I? And he beats up Cypher and he becomes your summon. Well, it's revealed that, it's the one from FF5, so is this. And I believe this same version is also in 14. There's a quest line in there or
Probably.
something too. So, it's funny that he's there, and he's basically at the end of his segment here, he becomes a summon to you. That's not really spoiler because it's not really story related. It's side story related. But it does open up the possibility of the worlds having some sort of interconnect. So because we know at least now that in some form, 5, 8, and 7 are connected in this way. So
one of the things I did really like for the mini games, I liked a lot of the Chadley stuff. Like, I didn't like scanning enemies. I did miss a few. There's only one combat challenge where I didn't get perfect, but now that I have all my materia leveled up and I know how to pressure people within like a second, I can go back and do that one no fucking problem.
And the area bosses were fun.
Oh my god, they were so much fun. I never had one that gave me any trouble.
Yeah, they also kind of just assumed you beat all of the challenges in remake because they're not hiding the fact who Chadley is.
The only fight I had any trouble with was Odin. And when you do the Odin fight with
with Alexander?
With Alexander, that was annoying. I failed twice, but then I put on my fuck you hat and I had a strategy where I could kill Odin in probably about 2 minutes. Once I got him off the field, I was like, all right, bitch, now you're mine.
9 out of 10 players will learn to play the game a certain way. And then when you face Odin, you have to completely change how you play. And then from then onward, for the rest of the game, you'll only play like you played fighting Odin. And it actually does help you. Basically, if you're a player who, for the most part, even if plays action games, if you're just, hacking and slashing, doing stuff, you'll find that when you face Odin, it becomes way more important to basically wildly swing around your analog stick. Because you'll start to do crazy shit like spin moves, blasting them with like extra laser beams out of your sword and stuff. And you have to start playing a lot more flashy, because if he gets bored, he kills you. It's literally, if he gets bored.
How I did that fight, I used Yuffie, and Yuffie has certain abilities you can pick up, which build the stagger meter real
Yeah.
fucking fast. So I just kept staggering him and he couldn't touch me. And I kept using, like, he did kill me once, but everybody had a revival thing. And I know Red 13 had a move on him where he could, where it would stop instant death. And that's how I did it. Like, that fight is cheap, but it's beatable. Fighting Odin the first time, once you die twice, you're like, okay, now I get how this fucker operates. Fighting him in the combined arena, that was annoying, but I did admit, once I did it the third time and I beat him, then it became fun. Like,
Yeah,
summon fights are fun.
I do remember when I beat it, because I beat it a while ago. I was thinking this is going to be the Odin fight was already a little hard because you don't have to get Odin.
Mhm.
You only have to get Odin if you want to do the secret boss fight, which is getting the final summon of Gilgamesh. But you don't. There's the last couple of summons you don't actually have to get as part of the storyline. So in beating, I was like, oh, this could be hard. And when I got to the part with Gilgamesh, I was like, I don't know if Mike's going to do this. Not that I didn't think you could do it. I didn't know if you'd have the patience, depending on how many times you got stuck with them. Because,
Yeah, like,
because
do
I was
you
like,
not remember when I texted you at like 3 o'clock in the morning and I was like, I just made him my bitch.
and I was like, oh, so and I was like, okay, good, because this, if you could do that, then there was not going to be an issue of anywhere else you'd have trouble.
Oh, the rest of the game was a cakewalk. Like,
because even on like if you put things to the hardest difficulty, Gilgamesh is still easier than than that one summon fight.
Gilgamesh was a fucking cakewalk. I never had a problem with him. Although this is something, and you guys are probably going to laugh at me. So one of the things that we haven't really talked about here, there's a skill system in this game which allows you to learn combo skills with like different characters. So if you hold in the button, you could do where Aerith throws magic at you and you deflect it with your sword, and now you have a ranged attack.
The synergy one, yeah.
I forgot those existed for 99% of the game, except for my synergy combo attacks, which I would spam the fuck out of.
Okay, I think that's the same for most people, unless you're playing it on the hardest difficulty where you have to figure it out really fast. Here, you're going to think I'm even dumber. I didn't do or know how to do the synergy. I didn't know how to build up the synergy, build up the bars to do the synergy attacks. I didn't do synergy limit breaks at all until Cosmo Canyon.
Same. Or no, I figured it out in Gongaga because I had to look up the meter. I'm like, how do I build this up? And then I'm like, oh, that's how that. Yeah, it's really easy.
It's just do it a couple of times, and then once you figure out the order that you do them in, it's like, oh, because you can get you can unlock higher, like if you do the synergy system and go into the map, which is like it's like the old sphere grid from Final Fantasy X, where you're like, you can customize using weapon points, what moves to have for your synergy attacks and everything, and the bonuses and all that. And if you're smart about the way you do it, you can unlock higher level limit breaks. So I think, was it Ascension is number 2? There's like, you can go to the 3rd level limit break. You can't do 4th level stuff. But if you go to the 3rd level and you time your battles out right and you have enough time to do it, you can end up like using I can't remember. I don't even know if it's Clouds that is the most powerful. Like, there's Ascension and there's another one. I think it's Tifa's 3rd level, because there's only a couple of them that can get to 3rd level. That like is way more powerful. Like you'll go in and
Yuffie's is stupid powerful.
There's a few that are random. Like, I know that there's like a 3rd level one for Kate Sith is like really good, but it's based on luck. So if it's, you could like nuke shit. But anyway, you could do a lot of cool stuff there. Beyond that, the gameplay loop is pretty much the same for every zone, and it's find all the world intel,
which is fun, actually.
It was. They found a way to make the world big enough, but not too big to be boring. And there's the whole gameplay loop of that. Every zone has a world boss. Every zone has a certain amount of collectibles and things to find. It's your pretty it's like they've taken what a lot of Western games have done since, like in the Ubisoft or like Ghost of Tsushima style, where you have things in your area, but they've put just the right amount in. Every area has
4 or 5 side quests, give or take.
yeah, 4 or 5. Then there's towers to climb to unlock intel in areas, and it's all. It never gets to be too much for the most part. I think that the only thing I didn't really complete, or maybe I did, I don't know if I found all of them, were all the choco stops.
I think I'm missing like 1, maybe 2.
And those are your
Trophy
I guess
hunting bullshit, basically.
Yeah, basically you can sort of cut light out, but it helps with quick travel or fast travel.
The only thing I didn't engage with, and although I made it a point to always buy the booster packs when they were available, is the Queen's Blood minigame.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved Queen's Blood, and I hated
so you loved being on the ship for forever.
I didn't need to be on the ship forever. I did pretty well.
But like you were in on that moment.
Oh, I was like, game. Oh yeah, I'm gonna beat everybody, and I'm not great at the puzzle ones where it's like to figure out where you have to. There's only a specific method to beat
those, area. Yeah.
So some of those I just ended up looking up people's solutions because I'm like, I can't figure it out. My brother's great at that sort of stuff. I'm not. I am not somebody who liked Triple Triad. I have not liked. I'm that weirdo that didn't like any of the card games in previous Final Fantasy games. And I really like this.
I hated it so much that I hate this.
I was. It also beating this one leads to having something interesting in that. Without going into, it's not a spoiler because it's not story related really, but there's always been
it's extra.
There's already been a part of me that wondered, like, okay, so there's the Cetra, and the Cetra. Gone, died out, whatever. We know that from the original game. And then you have humanity rising up, but there's like gaps of thousands of years, or like at least several hundred or thousands of years, where it's like, what was the world like when the Cetra fell, but before the rise of modern technology? And in Queen's Blood, you're basically, it's the boss, the evil. It's an evil spirit that was the queen that possessed it, blah blah, and she's from the first civilization that rose when man took over magical powers. Like basically when humans started Mako. Before Mako, when humans just started using materia.
Okay.
Like basically the after the fall of the it's from like the Middle Ages, from like the Dark Ages, which so it's like civilizations that are no longer there. And I was like, that's cool, because they could always do another story at some point where it's like,
they could literally turn Queen's Blood. They could turn Queen's Blood into its own game if they.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised it's not like a mobile game. Kind of like how they did with Gwent.
Yeah, people have been asking for it. And they're like, oh no, they are doing a
they're gonna do
version,
it.
I believe. I think that was announced.
Oh God, that'll be exclusive to the Square Enix store, and everyone hates that store.
So it's either going to be that, or it's going to be, or they'll partner with somebody. Like who knows? Maybe Magic or somebody. But like they already said it's coming back for the next game, and they're going to be expanding on it and doing different things. I do think if we got to wait 2 or 3 years for the game, it's probably going to be. It could be 3, could be 2.5 years till we get another game, because the engine's already done, right? So that's what I keep telling myself. It won't take 4 years, between games. This time it might take 2.5 to 3 because they've already built the world. But yeah, like, so beyond that, that's sort of the loop. You sort of know it's action, fighting, yada yada yada. May as well just give like a final grade before we go into the spoiler discussion.
I'd say this is an absolute buy it. Like, this is something everybody who owns a PlayStation, if you like JRPG, if you have even a passing interest in Final Fantasy VII, absolutely play Remake, play Rebirth.
There's a bundle. There's a bundle out there.
Yeah,
it's
one of the few times where when I first played it and going back thinking on it, I was like, oh, I could nitpick certain things here and there. It's one of the few times I'll give something a 10. It's a 10. That doesn't mean it's perfect game, but it's a 10.
It's a 9 for me, and the only reason it gets a 9 is because some of that minigame bullshit is fucking annoying, and having certain storylines locked behind that is annoying as fuck. Like, if it wasn't for those guides on YouTube and I didn't know what would happen in the Cosmo Canyon minigame specifically, I would have given up on it. But I'm glad that I fought through it to see what happened. But it was annoying to even have to look that shit up. Queen's Blood, yeah, hopefully I can get better at, like, maybe Alex tomorrow I'll show you because I've already beat the game. I've bought in most of the booster cards that I can and bought everything out of Gold Saucer. Maybe you can build me a deck and I can go
Um,
through the game again.
yes, you can always go that little shack outside of Midgard from the very beginning of the game.
Mhm.
After you beat the game, any packs that you missed are sold there.
Oh, okay. So maybe I might have missed one, but yeah.
Um,
Otherwise, yeah, because like I
it
would, I
becomes
wouldn't mind going through
essential.
this game again.
A destruction pack becomes essential, which is basically where you destroy your own cards to gain power.
Yeah, that I've read a couple of strategies on, but I didn't know how to set it up. But yeah, like ultimately it's fantastic. It's moving, it's emotional, and as we're going to discuss in just a minute, it doesn't quite go the way that you think it's going to go.
So, I'm not going to, because we don't know exactly where it's going to be timestamp wise, but just know if you've been listening so far and you want to avoid spoilers,
Start now.
now is where you'll end it because we'll at the end of our spoiler discussion we'll probably just mention, hey, buy it. It's probably going
Yeah,
to make our
Yeah.
game of the year, contention. It's making our holiday gift guide. Period.
for sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Square Enix sent over a copy for us to check out on PS5 as well because I had played the disc version. Now I've got a digital copy. They're like, hey, just consider for gift guide. It's our big heavy hitter this year, and I'm like, no shit, it's
No
your heavy
shit.
hitter, guys. And it's like, so they haven't paid us to do a review or anything. They just provided a code saying, hey, would you like to consider this for game of the year? And I was like, am
Yeah.
I going to consider the game that I was probably going to consider anyway? Yes, I would. Okay, we'll talk about it. We'll do a show. But yeah, so expect that. We'll probably discuss at the very end where we think the series is going to go. But if you're, somebody who wants to play but hasn't, you've been avoiding it, and I don't know why you necessarily just be listening to us and go, now it's time for us to play. But if you've just been wondering what our opinions were, it's pretty universal that it's one of the games of the decade so far. Whether or not you like JRPGs or not, it's like
Definitely
God,
a highlight of the PlayStation 5 life cycle.
yeah,
100%.
it's like God of War
Yeah.
Ragnarok. God of War Ragnarok, even though it was not an exclusive, right? It was on both last gen and current. It is one of those pillars that even if you've never played them before, it's the kind of game. Spider-Man, Final Fantasy, those are the three games right now that you can introduce people to the franchises.
Yeah.
So spoiler time. What the fuck?
I think this handles the idea of multi universes in a different way where it doesn't. It's a different way to handle it. I had to wrap my head around it at first, but I kind of like how they're doing this. Actually, it
Yeah,
feels smart.
I'm more shocked that people don't understand what Aerith is doing and what she
Yeah.
represents. I'm just like, it's pretty clear cut to me.
I think some people. Well, it depends on how much you're somebody who likes things told to you directly before you analyze,
Eh.
or if you're a conspiracy theorist like us. Now, plot wise, we should sort of state where the original game was at this point. At the end of the original game, and by original I mean like the '97 game, where the plot points that take place in this game are most of the meat of it's actually the meat of the original game, which is everything
Yeah.
from the time you leave Midgar all the way up until you lose Aerith, which is
Almost
basically
all of disc
60.
2.
Yeah, it's basically halfway through the game, maybe slightly farther, depending on how much you want to do in that. Because that last disc is like, even though it's technically a third of the
It can
game,
be
it's really
yeah.
only a quarter of the game.
Yeah.
So this is about 60 to 70% of the original game is covered in these first two games. So what major plot points that are different is obviously they're fleshing out every town with new people, returning people from Crisis Core. There's lots of little bits of lore here and there. Main difference here, like, I guess, should we get into
The Zack of it all?
Yeah. So basically half the game, every chapter, every so often, you flash over to playing as Zack, who is miraculously alive, and you do realize partway through, like, you were wondering, and there's part of me that's still wondering. Like, I know that the idea is whenever you see the little dog, that's the logo from like the was a bag of chips
The
or
chip
whatever.
companies. Yeah.
Yeah, that there's a different dog representing different realities and different universes in the multiverse. There's a part of me that's like, is Zack he was pulled from a different universe. Has he been pulled from a different universe into our current universe? And the reason we aren't seeing him is because he's in Midgar and we're not. But then you realize not necessarily, because the universe that he's pulled into is one where they're all dead. Where the main cast did. So then you start to wonder,
he's saving a completely different timeline where where everyone failed in Rebirth.
Well, and that makes
he's basically playing the bad ending of Rebirth.
Well, it makes me wonder,
or of a remake. I mean,
is he in the universe or in the timeline or in a universe of where? Because at the end of the first game, ended up those spirit things you were fighting were actually yourself, like
right.
So, is he pulled into the universe where you just beat?
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Like, is he seeing the effects of this universe defying fate and beating that universe? Is he seeing what happens when we fought? It could be other things, but whatever. There could be some deep aspects to it, but as far as what's going on with him, you start to see like where things could go wrong. You get a little more fleshed out story. If you haven't played Crisis Core, you really, not only will you not know who he is or what he's about, I feel like you do yourself a disservice because you really don't know the character.
Yeah, like Crisis Core is the game I'm going to play next.
Yeah. There's a reason why they redid Crisis Core, people.
Yeah, just know that the dialogue and the storyline in Crisis Core is kind of sucky. It's not as bad as other, like, I would say the story is good. The voice acting is not good.
Well, they fixed the voice acting in the redo.
Fixed in quotes.
Fixed in quotes. They didn't change the dialogue, actual script.
The actual acting is better than in the original.
Yeah.
But the script is still dog shit. It's still
the script is bad.
Nomura doing anime
Nomura
stuff.
on drugs.
Doing anime stuff and not having an English script writer go, hey, that's not right.
How that works.
Whereas the remake and Rebirth are much more.
There's an actual team behind it.
There's nothing really in Rebirth and remake that feel hokey. There's a lot of hokey shit that happens in Crisis Core, but the character is enduring, and you learn to love the character because Zack in the original is basically voiceless. The lines he says are things that Cloud says, and they're very simplistic, and that is due to the fact that there was like one or two people that did the translation, and there was just not a lot of time. So you do get more out of.
It was also a PSP game.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the PSP, yeah. So you get more out of it, but still, it's good. You sort of see that. You sort of see how in the trailers that we were like, how the hell did certain people survive? It's like, oh no, they're being pulled from fate. Pulled certain people into certain areas, and that's one thing I've noticed a lot of other like content creators haven't talked about. Like they'll talk about their belief system of like, oh, is it the reunion pulling people together? All the different all the different realities are pulling together, and Sephiroth's doing this and blah blah. There's Omni Sephiroth, and then there's Omni this blah blah blah.
Yeah,
but
spoilers for what the third title is going to clearly be.
Yeah, but in doing that, one thing that they haven't really touched upon is why these specific characters from their specific realities have been pulled away into certain places. For instance, why am I drawing a blank? What's his name? Dude looks like Solid Snake.
Biggs?
Yes. Yeah. Why did Biggs
Survive?
from it's either he's from he seems like he's from our prime.
Because he has memories of our world.
And of our cloud. Why was our prime Biggs pulled into a world or one of the worlds with non-prime Zack? Why are they interacting with each other? Because other times it seems like the people that are pulled don't know what's going on or what's different. Why was he pulled there? And he's also a different Zack. It's not really revealed. Is he the Zack that dies that dies trying to defend Biggs in the reactor? Because they showed us like 4 or 5 streams of how things went in the game, and it can be a little confusing.
It could be all 3.
Yeah,
for all we know.
So I mean, there's different things, and we're not going to go too deep in that because there's other YouTube videos that are analyzing it and everything beyond. Just know that it's showing multiple possibilities that are now somehow converging due to Sephiroth, and
we're going into a Crisis on Infinite Earths kind of situation.
They're doing multiverse of madness, sort of random crazy shit. I'll say this story wise because we're not going to go into every section of what they changed. I'll say things that they changed for the better. I think Sid is better.
Yes.
He's not a cynical, mean old man who seemingly works for Shinra and then just double crosses at the last minute. I hope they don't go with his character and turn him into somebody who's like a double agent right now. I don't think so. I think that they've just retconned him to already they did. I was like, are they just never going to mention that he works for Shinra? Or they're going to probably show that he did and the town's all shitty. But what they did in this was they mentioned that he knew Aerith's mom. So obviously he's probably the guy that was probably going to be revealed to be like a private pilot for Shinra.
Yeah.
If not on the, he was part of the space program, yada. But it seems like he was the one that was always transporting them for research. Or something, because he knows he's specific, and not just like randomly knew the mother, like seemed to actually know her. So he was probably the guy that was on assignment to whenever they had to move her around. So that's cool. He's better. We already know that Yuffie was made a hell of a lot better, as you said, Michael, earlier. Like,
oh yeah, like better. She's so much fun in this, and I didn't expect that from that character. I also like. They really went more in depth with Red 13.
Yep.
When his voice changed, that took me by surprise. Okay. I was like, what the fuck?
Okay, want to know something really fun? If you skip his area, okay, you can go on, where was it? There's a bunch of missions that you can do out of order. And if you do them out of order, the voice actor had to record both types of voices.
Oh, that's cool.
Because if he hasn't revealed himself to be the teenager kid, he will still talk with the authoritarian older voice, the wise voice.
That's so cool.
In areas of the game where if you just sort of bypass Cosmo, he'll keep talking like that.
Oh, that's really cool.
So I was like, so it's not like the cutscenes cut to it. Like he had to record at least, not every part, because obviously there's a certain point of the game where you have to have gone to Cosmo when he changes. But there's a few areas, I forget where it was, but you can find videos online where they do the comparison that if you just haven't quite gone there yet, he won't talk like the kid, which is cool. There's a lot of thought and detail into this. And it works way better voice than obviously it did in the original when he's like, I'm home. And they're like, in the original, you're like, oh, that's weird. In this one, he's like, I'm home. And everybody's like, what the fuck? That's how you talk?
Also, one of the other things they did, and I didn't expect them to do this, when they introduce, I think in the original, they talk about the ghee and the black materia
Oh,
very, very quickly.
this
That
is
was really
well,
cool.
this is the big change. The black materia was something that the Cetra, the ancients had made themselves in their research, and then they were like, "Oh, it's too powerful. We got to hide it. We got to block it." And the ghee just had no backstory previously. Like their story had just been they were outsiders. I
Yeah,
don't
they were
even
just there.
remember. I don't even remember if they were mentioned to have been space travelers.
Not that I recall, but
They
this
they
is
were
high
they were
school.
like
Maybe
Mike, so.
maybe in the movies, sequels stuff.
yeah,
but
like
not in
I
the
think in
base
the
game.
original it was like they were just demons, like dimensional demons from
Monsters.
monsters basically. I don't think they were a tribe of monsters. There wasn't really like that were like haunting them. They were just haunting the area. It wasn't like they were you know playing into the whole Gaia theory of they're an invading organism, so they weren't allowed. They're not when they were dead. They weren't allowed to leave. And it's like, oh shit! So the black materia, it's the reason because I always wondered like why would the ancients have this hide it when they knew it was doomsday, when they were all powerful, they were a mono culture, like they wouldn't want to destroy their planet when their planet is their lifeblood. And it's like, oh, they actually found a way to make it make sense. And it's literally like that materia is made of the earth, but not of the earth. So it's materia made of the will, power, and magic of people that are alien to the planet, because the planet would not be able to create something that would destroy itself.
The thing that
So
I really liked about
yeah,
the ghee story is they are trapped here eternal, and to
yeah,
create the black materia is to undo life. Like, how can you return to the life stream if
yeah.
you've never been a part of it? That was, I'm like, that is fucking
Well,
tragic.
and they're also for the first time ever, they're not evil.
Yeah, they're just
Mm.
people who are
They're
suffering, and
they
you
they
want to
they've
help
been
them.
they've been suffering for thousands of years. Thousands of years they've been suffering to the point where they are no longer sane. Like they're not insane like they just want to murder. They actually don't even want to murder anybody. They have been immortal and trapped and suffered for so long that they actually see this not as just a freedom for them. They think they're going to free everybody on the planet.
Right.
They actually think they're the good guys.
It's a mentality of they don't realize what they're doing.
Not anymore. Yeah.
Not anymore.
Or they
And
don't care.
well, yeah, they can't. They don't.
They
Yeah,
can't.
they can't care anymore. And what's funny is when you think about them, um, there could be storylines like if if you wanted to do another game, you could set it at the fall, like when Genova first hits the fall of the Cetra. You could put the Queen's Blood stuff in where that was like the first civilization of man, and that could be around the same time that the Gi were there. And it's like the Gi show up as another invader. They think it's like the planet thinks that maybe the planet, you could even do something like speculating. The planet didn't reject the Gi automatically, or wasn't going to reject them automatically, because maybe the planet initially didn't have a defense system against outsiders until Genova came, and because Genova was such a bad parasite. The Gi are not a parasite. The Gi don't even want to take over the planet.
Hmm.
The Gi's home planet was being destroyed from whatever. Maybe their planet was being fucked up by Genova. Maybe Genova, for all we know, in this version, snuck aboard whatever vessel the Gi came over with. So that the Gi basically brought a calamity with them. It didn't just randomly fall to the planet. Because I always thought that was odd that it just came on its own. They never said it came with a meteor, or they did. It was the meteor that brought it. But like for all we know, that's what the Gi came on, or something. It was a vessel that the Gi came on, and they were coming because their planet was being destroyed, not realizing that they had Genova hiding
Genova
amongst them
with them. Yeah.
Yeah, they were trying to escape. They thought they made it out. They could easily put that in, and it'd be like, oh, it's not that the planet doesn't want to reject all life. It's that the planet sees the Gi as a threat because Genova came with them.
Yeah.
So there's things we could do there, but beyond that, the Gi was really massively put on, a show for us. The whole time I'm mesmerized. I'm like, oh my god, they've actually done it. They found a way to make it interesting and added so much more shit to it. And then of course, nobody understanding the real ramifications of the black materia at all. Like even, unlike in the first game, the original game, the black materia was sort of explained as you're going through the tower or going through the ancients temple, that it's explained that it's even on the murals showing that what it would do. It will call meteor and kill everybody. They don't actually show that in this game.
No. I mean, one thing I do love about this is when they dive into the multiversal bullshit and they explain, or they kind of show that the holy materia from our world is drained because the white materia is powered by the memories of the life stream and our materia is empty. But when Cloud gets the materia from another era, from another reality, and it's full and it's ready to go, I thought that was clever as shit.
So getting to that. So
like, my God.
So in here, like we said, we got the Gi, we got all that. We've got Sephiroth fucking with shit. The best way to look at it is that everybody's been saying that Aerith that he meets in the dream sequence, or when he's live streaming, whatever, that's the Aerith from the original game. So
yeah,
everybody thought that it was this timeline had been looped and reset. I'm now of the belief that this isn't the same timeline. This isn't the same world.
No, it's not. No, it's not, because you like Sephiroth, like going into the final boss, Sephiroth is hopping through different timelines trying to find the one timeline where he wins.
Yeah, like Sephiroth, like it's not even that he's possessing, he's corpse hopping basically from planet to planet, like taking over the he's like using his own spirit and will to take over the mind and body. Actually, well, he's not even here. We haven't actually seen Sephiroth's physical body because he's up in the fucking crater. This is we're seeing a mental psychic projection of him taking over host bodies of people in the reunion, part of people with Genova cells.
Yes.
So you're like, every time you're fighting him, you're fighting his spirit within the body of another. So what it's clear is the reason that the white materia is empty is because it was used and worked, but because it was so depleting, he's now come and fucked with the timeline. It's depleted. He's trying to win in worlds where he had already lost, because he's like, the planet doesn't have time to recover.
I'd seen an alternate theory on that where it explained that every time the Whispers had touched Aerith at the end of the last game, that like every time she was touched, she kept losing her memories.
Yeah.
So that's what led to ours being depleted. So we were screwed. So we needed to cross the worlds and everything to get a fresh one.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear that the Black Whispers are representative of Sephiroth's will, having tainted the Arbiters of Fate life stream. It's not even really clear if that's life stream or what, in my mind, might get revealed is each individual Whisper is a Sephiroth from one of the infinite realities.
I could believe that.
I would think that makes sense.
Every single, like every one of them, every single one, because it's talking about the infinite. Every one of those represents a Sephiroth working together with this prime Sephiroth. And when they were all being interfered with or being attacked by, or when stealing her memories, it's what it is it's them each individually having a representation of a fight where they've killed her in their reality. And the white ones are not necessarily just Aerith, but the white ones are the actual antibodies representations.
They're the white. They're the white blood cells of the life stream.
Of the life stream from not just our universe, that it's the representative when they show them fighting each other. It's literally the good party from whatever world that's from fighting against Sephiroth in each one. Sometimes they overcome, sometimes they're at a standstill. So, it's people thought, oh, it's Aerith controlling the way. It's not that. I think it's each one represents a world where Cloud and the party has triumphed, and it's just showing that there's less and less of them as time goes on. So obviously,
because Sephiroth has been corrupting the timelines throughout,
and the prime.
So he's pulling a fucking Thanos basically,
Yes.
and it's that 1 in 134 million, whatever.
And I'm not entirely sure that the Sephiroth that we're seeing, the Prime Sephiroth, is the Sephiroth from the original game.
No, he isn't.
Because I think he's from a slightly different. He's from the one. He's like, in Endgame. It's like figure up the one world where everything went right for him. He found that he was the only one that survived when he found his way into when he corrupted the life stream completely and merged with it in his planet. He was able to see the realities, and he's like, I'm the only one that made it.
Yeah.
I'm going to change that. But I do think that the Aerith that comes to protect you, that has the full white materia, that is the Prime Aerith.
Yeah, that's
the main
definitely
game.
Prime Aerith.
Prime Aerith, because in the original game, she merged with the life stream and became sort of the omni person there. So he's from the one world where she's from the Prime world where everything went the way it's supposed to. For anybody who's watched anything in Marvel, the
anchor being
the sacred timeline. She is the representative of the sacred timeline, or everything eventually is supposed to end. Well, they might have completely different pathways to get there. The ending is supposed to be she dies, merges with the life stream, and
saves the planet.
Saves the planet, and the humans truly become the stewards. The humans, and I guess Nanaki and his tribe, become the stewards of the planet. And so she's like super powerful. So she has gathered her energy and given it to you. So there's a lot of things there. And again, we could be completely wrong because they might completely fuck with us. But there has to be something in there. I will say this. I was a little surprised at the writing where nobody was questioning why Cloud was starting to get cold and mean near the end of the game. Not a single person.
From what I've read and what I've watched on it, it's supposedly because now he is an unreliable narrator. The Genova cells are degrading him, and he is on some level a Sephiroth puppet because he takes.
Oh no, but why did nobody else ask? Nobody's Cloud. That's rude. Nobody's like the way he was behaving.
Yeah.
Nobody was like. You would have figured that. Maybe if Aerith didn't, because Aerith is it's clear that she's sort of in on it. She sort of knew what was going on, but knew that she's not supposed to change too much.
Right.
But why did Tifa not look at Barrett and go, like when Cloud is talking the way he is, and like give a look like,
what's wrong with you?
Like that's out of nowhere.
I think that's going to be a majority of reunion. I'm just going to call it reunion because that's exactly what they're going to title it.
Except that's
Final Fantasy Revengeance.
Except that's what they called Crisis Core, so I don't know if they're going to call it that. Maybe
Resurrection, Revelations, Rejuvenation.
They would
revamped.
They would not do something with.
It has to be something.
Remind maybe.
Not the hard R. No, because that
no, not the hard
that connects to that Remind connects to Kingdom Hearts, and no one wants to connect it to Kingdom Hearts.
The only reason I'm saying that is because
the real Sephiroth is the bad guy from Kingdom Hearts.
Not Reminiscence. It would be because
Reminiscence isn't terrible actually.
I would say it's going to have to do something with
Remus.
Like, as the reunion is about, obviously the reunion of the worlds. Remake was about remaking the worlds. It's got to be something to do with restart. rejuvenate. It's got to be a word that's simple enough that isn't too many consonants.
Yeah.
It has to fit on box art.
And not it has to flow somewhat well.
Reloaded.
I mean,
But like, no, here's something that I think is gonna happen. We can see Cloud turn into a Sephiroth, and that Sephiroth we fight in the third game.
I can see that.
And Zack shows up, and we're
becomes
fighting.
the true hero.
He becomes the true hero.
I've heard some people say that Tifa's going to have a huge role in the next game too.
Yeah,
there will be, because it's about parallel worlds. I don't think that he'll be gone forever. There actually might be something to do with time, like there might be pockets of time where you have to go and alter reality, or maybe reality. Final Fantasy VII reality.
That would actually work.
Or reanimate.
Realities.
It's got to be something about fixing, bringing back.
We got to correct. We got to correct all of the timelines that Sephiroth missed.
No, it's too long. It's got to flow off the tongue. It's got to be like remake.
It's got to be at least just two syllables at best.
2 syllables. Yeah.
So
rehabilitate. No, that's too long.
Yeah.
It's going to be so. And remember, it might be a little off because if it's made in Japan, they might have a word that just they think will sound good in English, but might not. But it's going to be. It's going to be something.
Yeah.
So we'll look it up and put up with the list after, but it does appear like that last part of the game. Like when I told you, Mike, I said before you take it on, save your game. When it says the point of no return, be aware it's about a 5-hour stretch.
Yeah, and I wasn't bored during that. I mean, I didn't much care for some of the flippy puzzle shit, but once I got the hang of it, it was all right.
It wasn't too hard. I just kept doing each direction to see if I could find an extra chest or whatever. It wasn't too
same
difficult.
here.
It wasn't too bad. If you played Persona 5 Royal with the extra ending, with the psychology mind puzzle at the end, it was very much like that.
The color puzzle, which I literally have to I
call Blair to help me with that every time.
Yeah, so when you look at that, it's not as hard as that, but it had similar vibes of like this is sort of an epic end game puzzle area.
And then also the final boss fight is up there as one of the most video gamey boss fights.
Oh yeah,
like it was.
You're just like
Like Persona has like a couple phases, and I was like, this is gonna have way more phases than this, and it had way more phases. But getting to that, I liked. We're sort of skipping a lot of the little story changes here and there. We know that they changed Sid to be a little more sympathetic and more endearing. Big surprise was to show that there is a full world traversal that you can do. Probably the next game, obviously, within your plane, where you can fly, land without a loading screen and get in. Also, when you're traveling via boat, in quotes, technically, it shows that you can travel the world. There's secrets to find. It's like they did it. They found a way in 4K gaming to make a traditional JRPG overworld map.
Yeah, it's seamless. It's
they
really
mode
nice.
7'd it. Yeah.
They mode 7'd it, and not like cancel to a black screen loading screen to go into the world. It's just all the characters disappear. You get a bird's eye view. When you land, all the characters reappear. And it's like, holy shit, they did it. And that's not easy in traditional engines. Not anymore.
No.
It's they had a hard time doing it.
You talk to any programmer, they'll go, what the hell did you
There's
do?
only one thing that annoyed me about this, and it's specifically in the gold saucer section. To cross certain pieces of water, you have to get in the fucking buggy, and then you have to get out.
And that
was probably just a
small gripe.
You know what they're going to do?
It's
they're going to
because they wanted you to use the buggies.
Yeah.
Well, what they'll change is in the third game, you'll get like a hovercraft. They can go on land and there, and you'll just use that one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
Although Although, I'm sorry, just to interrupt you, I thought about this. The one chocobo section I did really enjoy is where the water shoots out of the chocobo's ass. I really did enjoy
Yes. Which is
those were fun.
That was, and finding all the heights, and I liked how every chocobo had different, abilities. Obviously, they're going to have the gold chocobo in the third game where you can run across the whole ocean and water and up mountains, because I do think they're going to do things. I'll get into that when we get into discussion at the very end here, just about where we see the next game going. But what I liked about the changes here, once you get in the Tower of the Ancients, they made Sung more sympathetic, a little bit more, because they did that in some of the other media, but they're really showing that the Turks, there's the younger Turks are kind of dumb and ignorant of things, which is how they always were, but they're not like evil. They've toned down the
They're
evilness
just
of a couple of them. Whereas Rude and Sung are clearly like actually probably good people. They're doing their job because it's what they are paid to do. Rude is a little more like that, and Sung I'd say is not a bad person at all.
Yeah,
And
he's a professional. That's what he is.
And what's shown is it's literally like his attitude seems to be even more so in this than in the previous versions of everything is, well, I'll do it because if I don't do it, somebody who's cruel will.
Yeah.
So it's better that I do it professionally and without malice than if we get somebody who's sadistic into this position, because that's who would take over, somebody not good. So it's like, okay, I get it. They've done a good job with his character,
and even the new Turk's kind of fun too. Elena,
yeah, and she in the original she was kind of just like meh, but yeah, like it's pretty clear that I feel like in the next game there's going to be a point where we have a party, maybe not the main characters. I think that we're going to see Zack team up with the Turks.
That'd be fucking cool.
That'd be cool.
And I'll get into that in a second. But as we're finishing the main story here, in the tower, or I guess ancient temple,
Forgotten City or whatever.
The best new thing that they added. They skipped the city. That traditionally where you went through, that was all kind of mazy, but the best part that I can think of that they added story-wise to this game was how you unlock the path to the city, which was
and you had to go through the little trials or whatever.
It's not even a trial. It's facing your worst day ever and coming and then having personal growth to deal with it. And you see things in there that were never shown in the original game. So you finally get to you had things alluded to. You see, and they're all heartbreak wrenching, but like you see Red 13. You see the day he was captured, and it's mortifying. Like he's basically just out and about, and then he starts getting chased by all these people, and they're like, catch the beast, and he's not. I mean, he's not human, but he's treated like just a rabid animal, and just how he's no anesthetic. He's just tortured. And when you realize that even though he's like in his 40s, he's just a teenager. He's like 14 in human years, and he's just tortured alone. And you're like, holy shit! No wonder he was like terrified and he was scared to let on. You realize why he put on the persona of this like tough older person when you showed up, because he wasn't sure if you were going to take advantage of him the way he was previously.
Yeah.
And then now you realize Nanaki can be completely himself around you because he trusts you guys. And you're like, Jesus, they'd never shown that. Barrett, you finally get to meet his wife.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, and how much you can see why he turned so bitter. Everybody that he knew is either dead or hates him. You saw that in the previous game, but like you know why.
You feel it hit harder.
Because he
wanted better for everybody.
He really did try to do good by everybody, and he's the one that ruined it. He really was, because they really weren't gonna just build there. They might have come in with a force, but they wouldn't have hated them. But you know what I mean, like the way they did shit. And then Yuffie's one will only affect you if you played Intergrade, and you have to kind of play that before this, because it's retelling and reshowing of the final scenes of that DLC. So I didn't feel it was quite as effective because it was more of just a retelling of things we'd already seen and things we'd already seen in the current, remake. Um, Tifa's, meh, and they rearranged some of her stuff too. Like they rearranged some stuff that's supposed to happen on disc 3 back to here and blah blah blah. Hers is
Yeah,
okay.
but like given the fact that they've said that Tifa has a major
She's going to be
hand in what we're getting in the
Yeah.
in the third game, so
which is interesting because she was more inconsequential
yeah,
after they were both fell into the Mako.
yeah,
She has basically nothing to do for the rest of the game in the original,
right.
except the slap fight. I think that's literally it, right? Like slap fight.
Yeah.
But which we're gonna have to see for sure. But it's quite clear there. But then Aerith, Mike, did you cry? I cried.
Yeah,
when she's going to, I'm gonna go get a doctor. She's like 6 or 7 years old, and
Yeah.
everybody in town is mean to her, and they don't want to help her. And and then Elmira shows up and it's like, I'm sorry, girl, but she like knows well enough, like this is still odd that this little girl is by herself. And you go back and you have to watch the mom being dead, and then basically Elmira becomes mom of the year.
Oh yeah.
Or mom of the decade. Just it's like, no, this something's not quite right. You got to come with me. You got to come. So it's like, oof. So that was sad. But then of course, she triumphs over it, and obviously how they get around Cloud not having to do it, because if Cloud had to do it, you would have been one of two things. Cloud would have walked in, and he would have walked in and seen memories that he didn't remember anymore from his real self.
Mhm.
Or he would have walked in and it would have done the whole thing where like he sees everything distorted as Zack, and we see those flashback scenes. So I'm glad they didn't do it, because the idea is that those extra pathways are broken. But at the same time, I did think that the only cop out in the game was that it looked like to pass through, you were supposed to activate every single one. And they just conveniently made it so that a couple were broken so that you could just go I don't know, whatever. But did you notice, Mike, that a couple of those little shrine rooms that weren't used, if you went in them, they had treasure?
Yeah.
So anyway, you go through there. That was probably one of the coolest things they did story-wise that they added. And then you have the long battle with the confusingness of Zack gets pulled in from other timelines by Prime Aerith to fight, and you have like a limited time to try out his
movesets,
his limit break and their sync up attacks and everything. It's cool. There's big battles there. You're fighting giant Genova thing, crazy, and then you fight big version of Sephiroth from the end of the original game, but not the angel, and blah blah blah, big fight, blah blah blah, and then you're both, in
but like I love the transitioning of how they did it.
Yeah,
how they did going between all these different fights, because the transitions just flowed really well.
Oh, absolutely. And then Prime Aerith shows up after we've seen her get killed, but he doesn't see her be killed, and
yeah,
mind fucking. We know that Genova is now playing with his mind. So at the end, we know that. At least, well, no, in quotes, you don't know anything when Nomura's writing, but from what we can tell, everybody knows that Aerith is dead, and if anything, they might be thinking Cloud has just gone catatonic and not reacting to it, because it's clear, like, he's talking to Aerith, but there's no way that he's actually talking out loud.
Yeah,
because if he was, everybody would be like,
everyone would make
who are you talking to? Because it would be.
But I think Tifa knows that her spirit is with them. I think that's why she gives that look.
Because
she knows the spirit's there.
Red 13 knows for sure.
And Red knows for sure.
Here's one of two things, though. Here's where it gets a little spicy. So obviously, we're led to believe that Cloud thinks that she's fine, but she's going to go somewhere else, and it doesn't ask why. And the whole team looks sad and forlorn. When the very end, when we have the scene where they're just waiting out in the field, and Aerith is talking, and it's now hinted and everybody believes that that's Genova basically seeding him to tell him to do things because he kept the black materia and it absorbed into his sword. He doesn't seem to know he has it, even though he's using it because, whatever.
Right.
But there's that scene where she's talking to him, or Aerith is talking to him, walks around and then touches Red 13 and he reacts, right? So that's where people were thrown off. Well, it could be one of two things.
She's part of the live stream, and so is he.
Well, it's that is her spirit talking to him or whatever. Blah blah blah. That she could be it couldn't be that it's not Genova. It could be her trying to fix his psyche and talking to him, and this is her way of saying, "I got to leave for now," and he's just mentally not able to deal with it. And then Red, because he's attuned with nature, could feel her, right? Because he's part of Or, and this is, I think, what might even be more likely. I have a feeling that in the next game, it's not going to be just Cloud that gets taken over. Because Red 13 was experimented on by Hojo and S cells.
Yeah, I could see that. It's possible.
Because the only two people, technically Tifa has fallen into the Mako, whatever she had, but she didn't even get Mako poisoning because it was one of the planet protectors protected her.
The weapons,
one of the proto weapons or whatever before they're turned into weapons or whatever. But he was experimented on the same way that soldiers, remember all these gene therapies and things that were done to him with both of them. I have a feeling that Genova, that was the first time that he's got a twitch of Genova trying to control or trying to give him the same feeling. He doesn't react like out of fear. He reacts out of the same way. It's like, oh, there's Aerith, right? But that could be an easy way of setting the seeds that, they might be playing into the whole idea that Sephiroth's, and Genova are going to take over Cloud. There's going to be some way to fix them. But they could very easily do a hard left turn at one point and have it be that Red also gets taken over and starts
I will say this. One of the things I'm looking forward to as we begin to wrap this up, I haven't been looking forward to a game like this in many years. The only other time I could think where I've actually been excited for a game, is Mass Effect.
Mass Effect 3, between 2 and 3.
Yeah, this is a good level of, don't fuck it up. I mean, sure, I'm excited for the next Star Wars and Elder Scrolls and, Fallout, but there's no continuing narrative other than okay, we're going to move forward 100 years, 200 years, here's a new faction. When it comes to Final Fantasy VII, oh, sorry, Cam.
No, but just I think that they know they can't fuck this up because most of the team grew up playing 7.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. I'll give my final thoughts before you wrap up, Mike. What I think is going to happen on the next game. Obviously, air travel is going to be a major part of it. Yeah. They did say that there's going to be more than just traveling from point A to point B. I think we're getting air battles.
That'd be cool.
Nice.
Because I think we're going to get air battles. My one thing I hope that they add, other than just battles with the different weapons and that, is I really hope that they find a way to integrate Knights of the Round into it better than just being a, Easter
super
egg,
secret summon,
super secret summon Easter egg. You get the golden chocolate. I think that there should be a quest line because it was never required to beat the game, and it almost made the game cheesy easy to beat, right? Because you could cast it twice. If you casted it twice, you basically beat the game. Yeah. But I would like for them to do a lore-based thing where they're they go around, they talk to Bugenhagen, they go around places, they're like, how do we stop Genova? Because Genova is a bigger threat than Sephiroth at the moment. And they're like, well, what stopped Genova the first time? And then all they have to do is go, okay, find some old ancient text, and they're like, oh, it was the equivalent, the Knights of the Round, because I think it was 13 of them or whatever, 13 attacks, 12 or whatever.
I would do it. Here's how I would do it. I would have the Knights of the Round be 13 leaders from the world at that time. Cetra, Nanaki's
Well,
tribe people, humans, everybody who'd come together
well, because
to stop it. the first time.
Nanaki's tribe was not. I don't because in the original they could do that, but what they because they said that it was like man turned on blah blah blah. What it could have been was the non-corruptible heroes, the people that
Yeah.
weren't corrupted. So what you do is you make it half and half. All of it because in that Knights of the Round there's people that come out using swords and weapons. You make like half of them that have all the swords and weapons that come out for the summon. You make them human, and the ones that used magic, you make them all Cetra. So the legend was that they worked together to seal it or destroy it, or basically destroy the calamity that happened. So, but instead of being a summon, like that you can just do whenever you want, you make part of the main quest line. You're like, we've got to figure out where they lie and all, and you could even have it on different points of the world where you have to visit their resting
Graves
places,
or
their
something,
graves,
yeah.
and Nanaki and Aerith is gone, but like Nanaki and other people have to go, and they have to find a way to commune with them, and either through science or something, find a way to build their essence and make them agree to basically fight with you, and you have it. Maybe that's where all of your intel research you've been doing on the planet comes into play with the Ark or whatever. They use that information to figure out how to get them. You get them together, and it's a use once thing, but it's part of the storyline. And you know how they blast a hole through with the
Space and time or whatever
with the sister ray cannon. Blast the hole through the I guess the barrier, and then you go and fight Sephiroth. Well, how about you go and fight Sephiroth, but you realize that because this is not the Sephiroth we've known, he's been fucking with reality and all this, that it's going to take more than you can give, and you've destroyed at this point all of the weapons in quotes, right? Because they've gone crazy and haywire. Well, the planet's last line of defense is to basically give you the use of the Knights of the Round one time, and it could be part of an epic part of the battle where Sephiroth is going to win, and as a last-ditch effort, Holy, instead of calling forth the life stream, calls forth the Knights of the Round. That part of recharging that whole, because you were given a full,
and that would give Holy that epic, even more epic crescendo.
Yeah, like,
and it's led by the girl, and it's led by Aerith.
Yeah. So for instance, you instead of Arthur, you have Arthur and all, but you see them all come out. They all come out onto the battlefield, these big epic things, and it's like these paragons of the past that fought. They come out, and while you're all getting wrecked by Genova or something, maybe Sephiroth pulls other Sephiroths or other characters that are under their control from timelines, and because it's going to get epic and crazy, and it's because he knows that maybe you can beat him, but you can't beat all of him, all the different versions and all this. So then Holy gets cast, the meteor's coming down already, and instead of just the streamers of energy going up to stop meteor, which never understood how that was actually going to work with how gravity works, but instead of those ribbons going up to save the Earth, the ribbons come forward towards you, and as they land, they're showing representations of fallen heroes. Maybe the Knights of the Round, isn't going to be the way you think of it, like the old King Arthur Knights of the Round. Maybe it's spirits and people from other timelines that were killed, that were heroes of yours that have now become part of the life stream. So maybe out of the blue, it's like, I don't know, a bunch of them come out, and instead of King Arthur, it's Zack is the final blow.
Yeah.
They come out, and it's all people that you've dealt with that have died, or variations of you in that. Maybe it's the bigs that died. They all come out in there, and it shows like their spirit within, like, it has like a flash of them, of their face or their body or their aura within one of the knights, and they just come out, blah blah blah, do the crazy damage, and that's what just kills everything around Sephiroth, including his final form or his second final form, destroys it, and then you have to have the battle with the angel, where it's just your party because you finally leveled the playing field.
Yeah.
But because they're not going to not have Knights of the Round in it, but I just hope it's not just another summon. It should be a use once summon that if they're really smart, they'll make it so it's not required. Where you
Make it a story beat.
Make it a story beat. Like you can either have it as a part of the story where it's required to do something to beat the game, so that it has a story and lore around it, or if you really want to be fun, make it so you can beat the game without it, but if you beat the game with it, you get a different ending.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Anyway, that's
make
my
it
thoughts.
hard but not impossible.
Exactly.
I mean, I guess ultimately, folks, this game's going to end up on our holiday gift guide. Me and Alex have played it, loved it. It was a good time. I'm going to play it again, probably at some point before the end of the year, now that I've opened Chapter Select and I have most of my materia pretty much power leveled. I'm going to have a fucking blast. This was a fantastic time. I know I was supposed to beat Persona 4 Golden. Maybe that'll be my winter holiday game now, because I've been working on that for like 2 years at this point. But regardless, this franchise has only gotten better. I'm pleasantly surprised. I really hope when this new game comes out, we're going to predict 2-3 years at max. Either way, it's going to be within the PlayStation 5 life cycle.
Fingers crossed for a late 2026 release or early like March of 2027.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for us. As of this recording, we are going to be back starting next week. You should hear our first show on Monday, September 9th. Me and Alex will be back. I am recording with David Denoyer. We're recording a couple episodes of Loose Cannon. We're going to be covering the first 3 Trancers movies. We're also going to be talking about the Ninja Turtles movies from the 1990s. And then we're going to lean into the Halloween season as the month goes on. I did record a live show with a kid from up at CFRU, which is the radio station here in Guelph, and his name is Otis, and I'm working on a show with him called Training Wheel, so he can learn to operate the board, but he may jump in on Twig conversations up on the station, so we may put that up as a piece of extra bonus content where me and him talked about, we talked about Baldur's Gate and tabletop RPGs, sort of like, now that the bar has been raised so stupid high, look at what the Japanese studios have now done with Final Fantasy VII, and Larian is now done with Baldur's Gate. Y'all are not getting away with Starfield anymore.
Yeah.
You're not getting away with this type of shit anymore. So
exactly.
It's on you, folks. So anyway, guys, it's been a fun summer. We are so glad to be back. And as me, Alex, and Ken prepare to sprint through all the video games that are going to be coming out between now and the end of the year, dear God, we're not going to sleep. It's going to be fun. So the next time on the Prototype, we'll be talking about Star Wars Outlaws in just a couple of weeks as me and Alex both work our way through it. I think Alex beat it. I'm just about quarter of the way through it right now, but I'm hoping to finish up fairly soon. So we'll be talking about that in probably about the next 2 weeks or so. So anyway, guys, keep it locked here to ThisWeekInGeek.net. So starting in New Jersey, we have been
Ken from This Anime.
From downtown Midgar,
Alex, the producer.
and I've been Mike the Birdman from Cosmo Cannon. We'll catch you guys again next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Those we hate, those we love, those we fear. Genova would become anyone to fool her prey.
Don't do this!
But I'm no fool.
Sephiroth! Hey!
No, not you.
Here, take it. This isn't about me, though. It's about saving the world. And you.
The reunion, when spite and sorrow are harvested to feed the planet.